Welcome to the Sacred Emergence Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Wong, and I'm so thrilled that you're here. This is a place where you'll be guided to living your most aligned life so that your truest, most radiant self can emerge. We'll be jamming on topics ranging from spirituality, entrepreneurship, to wellness and lifestyle design, and everything in between that can support you to grow, evolve, and shine, all the while not taking ourselves too seriously. So if you're ready to step into your leadership, break through limiting beliefs, own all of who you are, and expand in abundance, grab yourself your faith cup of tea and let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to a midweek episode of the Sacred Emergence Podcast. It's Michelle here, and welcome. If this is your first time, and welcome back if you are a returning listener. So I know it's been a while since I did a solo epi. But I miss y'all. So I decided to come on and do an episode midweek, and so many exciting things to share and announce. So we'll talk more about that towards the end of the episode. But yeah, we are in February, and by the time this launches, it'll be right before Valentine's Day. So yeah, we are in the thick of 2020. All the New Year stuff is all done. I think I've celebrated different versions of New Year's, from Lunar New Year to in bulk to actual, January 1st New Year. And it's so far, 2020 has been, for me, really fun, exciting. And I feel like things are starting to move forward in terms of business and life, and just super excited to give you all an update and also talk a little bit more about human design, which for those of you who have been listening, it's been a really, I don't even know if passion is the right word, but it just makes so much sense to me. Why wouldn't I talk about it? Why wouldn't I introduce it to more people? And why wouldn't I integrate it into my work? And for those of you who were able to tune in to my interview with Vanessa Henry, it was so fun. Even if you're not a manifestor, we talked mostly about manifestor energy type. But even if you're not, it might be just interesting to tune in, especially if you know of manifestors in your life. That was a really fun one. So I'm a manifestor, and basically if this is completely new to you, human design is really and it shares with you the imprint of how you're meant to be energetically in the world. And it uses your birth time, your date of birth, and your birth location to do all of the calculation, which I love. So it's not about you needing to fill out a personality test or anything like that. It's just boom, this is it. This is how you're meant to be. So it's really powerful when we can actually really dive deep and look at all of the different layers. And what's been interesting is that I've also been playing with the masculine and the feminine. So for me, 2020 for me is a year of the goddess. That's the theme that I have for this year for myself, really stepping into my divine feminine self. And man, be careful what you wish for. Pretty early on into January, I met someone. So, I'm in a relationship now, and it's really about the dance of the masculine and the feminine, because I think I'm pretty masculine. I just like to get things done. I like to be in control. I like to initiate. I like to just let's go. And I recently read this book by Dr. Pat Allen or Patricia Allen, and she's she's in her 80s, but she's really well known. She gives relationship advice. She's a therapist, and she's written a lot of books, and she's in her 80s. So the advice she gives sometimes is whoa, a little bit old school, but she's tough. And she really talks about in a relationship, this might be a little bit binary, but she talks about it actually really serves a relationship when there's one person who takes on the more feminine role, and then the other person takes on the more masculine role. And I've been reading the book is called Getting to I Do, which I'm just not a fan of the title. It's so old school that I'm embarrassed reading it. I'm can I hide this cover? But, I haven't read it in public, but I definitely am very conscious of the title. Just not really my thing, but she talks about she gives a quiz in the book of whether or not you lean towards more of the masculine or more of the feminine, and it doesn't matter what gender you are. And I actually prefer in a relationship to be in the feminine. And so when I was taking the quiz, I forget how many questions there were, but I was like, oh my God, I really hope I don't land in the masculine, because the person I'm seeing is definitely more like masculine, like a healthy masculine. And I was like, I don't want to cancel each other out. Um, but it turns out that I do lean towards, like, pretty obviously towards the feminine side in terms of the quiz. And I sat back thinking about, like, okay, as a manifester, because a manifester is one that initiates, they create, they are the just do it type of energy. So I was like, well, how does one work within a relationship where I'm leaning into my feminine? And if you got the chance to catch the episode between Vanessa and I when we talked about manifestor energy, um, I mean, it's interesting because we talked a little bit about, you know, the masculine and the feminine, but for me, like, I'm really being called to lean into my feminine, and that's what I want in a relationship, for me to really like sit back and receive. So, you know, and I haven't, like, I think my partner, I think he's a generator or a manifesting generator. I haven't actually done his profile yet, but like, either way, he definitely has generator energy. And so a generator is actually designed to respond. Um, so I was thinking, like, how do I make this work? And you know what? You know, what's interesting is that if you've ever caught the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding, there's this really great line where I think it was like the Greek, the moms or the women, they're trying to get the husband or one of the, like, the head of the household in the family to like do something, and they were saying how, like, you know, as women, we're the neck, we turn the heads of the men, which is hilarious, but that's basically how, like, for me approaching, like, because I really want to honor my manifestor self. How do I initiate in a way where he can respond but still allow him to lead? um, and for whatever reason, it's been working so far, you know, because I'm not the one who is like dictating everything. It's like I kind of drop hints, so like I'm initiating in that way. And I call it dropping the handkerchief, right? Even like if you look at online dating, if you're a woman or if you're more femininely focused, and if you're constantly waiting for a guy, like a guy online to reach out to you, you might be missing a whole lot, right? So it actually serves the woman or the one who is more feminine, to initiate the contact. Like, that's totally cool in an online world. But after that, you let him take the reins, right? This is more of a traditional thing. But for me, like, I find, like, for me, as liking to receive, and as from like the feminine perspective, that really works for me. And so, like, for me as a manifester, I find that I am initiating, but it's just in a more feminine way, if that makes any sense at all. So even like, yeah, like even, um, you know, with online dating, I was the one to initially reach out, but it was simply asking a question, you know, and I think if it's the right person, and especially since my guy's a generator, if he's interested, he'll respond. And there's this really great book called 121 First Dates, written by Wendy Newman, and she's a relationship coach, and she's incredible. I've had the chance to work with her, and I have her book, and she gives amazing advice on relationships. And she uses that term, dropping the handkerchief, right? It's like, it's okay to initiate or make the first move, but you need to be able to sit back and then receive it. Like, it's really interesting just playing with the dynamics. But anyway, that's just a little side note of how I've been stepping into more of my manifestor self, and still honoring the divine feminine and the goddess energy. And one of the things that, if you've been following me on social media, that I'm so excited to announce actually on this podcast, is that I'm offering a 3-day masterclass, that is starting Tuesday, February 18th, 19th, and 20th. So it's 3 days. It's free, and it's called Unleash Your Personal Power with Human Design, because there's so much amazingness when we really embrace and understand our human design. Not even just our energy type, but the different layers of the energy centers and how you're really meant to be in the world energetically. There's like, once you fully understand how you're meant to be, it actually, like, it gives you so much freedom to be who you are. And I've done quite a lot of readings since, I guess, earlier this year. In January, I've done a lot of one-on-one readings for people for human design. And like, one of the biggest things, like the biggest breakthroughs that people have is that they feel validated. It's like, oh my God, like that's exactly who I am. And the way that you described it is just, it gives me permission to be me. And that's such a, like for me, it's such an honor to be able to like, I didn't do any of the work really. It's like the body graph of the human design, just, it lays it all out. I'm just like sharing back with them what I see. And so it just gives such a beautiful way of like, oh my God, this is it. And it's like, it's really nice to see it on paper, to hear it from someone else. When you get that validation, because it's not necessarily a permission slip, but yeah, it's like you're giving, it's like, here's like the permission slip to like be who you are and release the comparison, release any need to feel like you're in competition with other people. And truth be told, when I reached out to Vanessa, because she's an expert in human design and she's an expert in astrology, and these are areas where I'm growing in. And so like after, you know, our interview got scheduled and stuff, I had a moment, like a brief moment of fear from my ego, being like, oh my God, if you have her on the show, then everybody is going to go to her. No one's going to be interested in what you have to share in your perspective because she's the expert. Like my brain went there, like the fear went there of like, now I feel like I'm competing with someone that I totally respect and actually learn from. And like, I really had to like remember, like we're all so different, we're all so unique, and our energy is different, even though we're both ego manifestors. How we present ourselves in the world is really different. And a part of me is just like, yeah, I have to like surrender and just trust in the abundance of the universe and just know that we each and every single one of us have unique gifts and strengths to share, even if we have similarities. And so part of understanding human design and your uniqueness in astrology and your personal like birth chart and all that, it really helps to see that. And I think it can help take out any anxiety and fear around competition and feeling like we have to compare ourselves to other or somehow we're not good enough. I just feel like once you fully understand yourself, there's just so much power, and like it gives you permission to really stand firm in who you are and what you believe in and how you do things. And so this 3-day masterclass series is going to give you like a taste of your uniqueness through your human design chart. So I will, in order to like fully get the most out of the 3-day masterclass series, you are going to have to know your birth time and your birth date, obviously, and your birth location so that you can print out or have access to your human design chart, aka body graph. And there will be parts of your graph that I will I'll cover. And so that there'll be areas we'll talk about boundaries. So we'll talk about themes of fear, anxiety, and intuition, as well as self-care, because there's different areas that, depending on your chart, you'll have different needs, and the way that you interact with other people will be different. So that your boundaries are going to be different, and the way that you self-care is going to be different. And so we're going to cover all those pieces during the 3-day, and it's free. So I'm so excited for this. And all you got to do is register. It's going to be happening in my Facebook group, Sacred Emergence. And it'll be recorded, obviously, because I'll be doing it through Facebook Live, and that gets automatically recorded, and you'll be a part of the Sacred Emergence community. So if you're already part of the community, you already have access to that. But you can also register if you want the daily reminders and the link to the recordings. That is also available. So I'll put a link in the show notes. But yeah, I'm stoked because when we fully embrace like and understand just who we are in our essence, it creates so much freedom, and it gives us more confidence, more of our own personal power back, and how we show up will change. And I know that for myself, that's the case. One of the things that is very prominent in my human design chart, when I heard it, when I read it, I was like, this is so weird. Like, it doesn't necessarily make sense to me. And as I understand it, the more I live into my human design and the more I step into my manifestor energy and the more I inform people of my actions, so the more I lean into that, the less resistance I'll receive, and the more in alignment I am with my design, then the more of the purpose, like my soul's purpose and how I'm meant to be in the world, it's going to become more evident without my efforting, right? It'll just eventually naturally happen. And one of my the purpose, my purpose here on earth is to provoke consciousness. That's, one of the gates that's very like strong in my chart, is to provoke consciousness. And so basically it's like kind of irritating people. If I had to sum it up, like I'm provoking, I'm pushing someone's buttons. I'm like I'm creating a ripple in someone's life or in their consciousness, where sometimes you have to take a step back and think about what I just said. And honestly, like I'm a person who also by nature likes harmony. Conflict is not my strong suit. Like I avoid conflict like the plague. And so like for me to provoke consciousness, it was like, oh my God, that's really weird, So an example of that would be like sharing a different opinion than everybody else. And if I'm in a room with strangers, I usually don't. It really depends on the people. But it is in my alignment to provoke consciousness, to share my voice, and to share a different perspective. And that's actually when I do that, I'm living in accordance to my design. And so that's really interesting. And I'm playing with that because I don't feel like it necessarily has to be like, I just irritated you, but it's like for me to share a different perspective or just how I am, like the rebel that I am as I lean more into like breaking the rules and deconditioning from societal norms. I think just by me doing that, I am provoking consciousness, right? And provoke doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's just like I'm awakening consciousness to a different perspective, which the more I lean into my manifestor self, and I think the more it will be. And then when I look at like when I combine that with astrology, like my sign is pretty watery. I'm Cancer rising, Cancer sun, and the Cancer energy typically is very nurturing. It has like the mother archetype of wanting to nurture and take care of others and nourish people. But it also has like the mom energy, right? Like the mother archetype that you don't fuck with the mom. And so like there's a piece of that too. So it's just interesting to for me to sit with. Like I think when I give a different opinion or just who I am and how I show up, that in and of itself might already spark a different way of thinking. Because one of the things I'm pretty adamant of not doing is just like I'm very conscious of the fact that I'm not going to be part of the norm unless to me it makes sense, right? Like I will now do something differently if I feel like, yeah, that's just not how I roll. And so, yeah, that's a thought that came in of like really honoring our full chart and who we are. And like at the end of the day, it's not like human design is not a prescription. It's not like this is who you are, this is how you're meant to be, so now you have to change everything in your life. But really it's just like it should be in alignment, right? Like when we look at a human design chart, if you're living in your design, it should feel so natural. But if somebody is coming in frustrated, angry, feeling like they're really off, nothing is going in life the way that they want, and they have to push and really force things to happen, and they're exhausted and they're burnt out, then it's like, okay, you're really off track here. Let's look at ways where you can start implementing more of taking care of yourself better so that you can come back into better alignment, right? Like where are you being off-centered? Where are you not being where are you your not self, right? In human design, they say when you're off track, you are your not self. And for me, it's like my not self is experiencing a lot of anger. And when I saw that, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense, right? Like growing up, I had really terrible temper, right? When things weren't going my way, and it's because I was like, a part of me was I was not being heard, like things weren't working, and so like the anger really comes through. And so those are just all telltale signs of like if you're experiencing some type of emotion or some type of frustration or bitterness or whatever, a lot, if you're experiencing that consistently, then it's an invitation to, okay, like where am I not being my full self? Where am I not living in alignment? And maybe I'm following societal norms too much to the T that I'm losing myself. So the whole point of this is to say, like with human design, it really gives you the opportunity to step into your personal power, your confidence, and we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that. And so I so encourage you to sign up. Even if you've had a reading with me, we'll look at it a little bit differently so that you can understand yourself a little bit more. So I'll definitely put the link in the show notes, and tag me, message me, reach out to me if you have any questions. But we start on Tuesday, February 18th for 3 days. And it'll be at 4 p.m. Pacific time. It will be recorded, but we'd love to have you live if you can make it on my Sacred Emergence Facebook community. So that's it. Hope you're all doing well. And if you're listening to this, like, I don't know, in March, April, May, or in December, of 2020 or 2021, I'm sure the group will still be there. So you will have access to it. You'll just have to join my Facebook group. So anyway, all that is in the show notes. I trust you're all well, and stay tuned for more. Take care. Join our free private Facebook group community, Sacred Emergence, to receive more connection, guidance, and support. And take part in our 5-day Inner Confidence Challenge to not only boost your confidence, but to help activate your inner leadership. Details in the show notes. Thank you for listening to the Sacred Emergence podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and thank you in advance for sharing this with others who can benefit. Until next time.